When I was a kid, Black Ops 1 was a controversial game, but these days it's considered a classic. Maybe this isn't even a universal experience, but the change in attitude people had towards this game, at least in the circles I frequented, drove me to make this video. It's not some unsung hero of the Call of Duty franchise or anything like that. It was literally the greatest commercial success for a video game at that time, but there were some people with some negative opinions of it. Now, I'm not saying those opinions are unfounded, but Black Ops 1 didn't exist in a vacuum. It was part of a series, and I think this informs why the reception was what it was. Call of Duty was once a simple, well-regarded World War II FPS, but then COD 4 changed everything. Maybe this is my nostalgia talking, but this was a golden era of Call of Duty where the developers had both the gumption to take risks with every new title and the skill to pull it off. World at War brought zombies, Modern Warfare 2 escalated the multiplayer to glorious heights, and then there was Black Ops. In my head, it's sequestered from all the other Call of Duty games, not even in terms of quality, but the emotion I get from looking back on it. Black Ops is an outlier, half a step too weird for the series, especially compared to the relatively conventional Modern Warfare 2 right before it. Let's make one thing clear, this is not a defense of Black Ops' flaws, but I greatly appreciate this game, even if it wasn't a technical masterpiece, even if its wacky hijinks might have made Modern Warfare 3 err on the side of boring to compensate. Treyarch didn't have to give us all this random bullshit to play with, they were driving a AAA money machine, but that didn't stop them. What's that? You're tired of the game? Why don't you hop off the cock and ball torture throne and cool off with a nice session of fucking Zork? Maybe a game like this was inevitable. Treyarch and Infinity Ward were passing around the hot potato. Modern Warfare 2 is the most intense game in the series to date, and I think people were expecting Black Ops to one-up it in terms of scale and grandeur. But Black Ops defied those expectations. It didn't exceed them, it defied them. It did its own thing. Maybe that's a bit dramatic. This is certainly a Call of Duty game through and through, but I can't pin the enduring intrigue of this game on pure nostalgia. Fuck, this game is 11 years old. It's older than I was when it came out. Before I make myself sad, let's get into the video proper. I'm going to go over the major elements of Call of Duty Black Ops in increasing order of weirdness.
Zombies.
Black Ops 1 Zombies is still pretty basic since the game mode only got more complicated with every new entry, but it was daring for its time. There were space monkeys, you could fight astronauts on the moon, and there is Dead Ops Arcade, which is technically zombies, where the final boss was a space monkey. Interesting. Call of the Dead was a zombie film set turned zombie outbreak, which I absolutely love, and Shangri-La was there. Anyway, who cares if zombies ain't in its final form yet? Kino is the most iconic zombies map of all time, and none of those hoity-toity gigantic Black Ops 3 maps let you play as the president, so we all know who the real winner is.
Get that son of a bitch out of here before I kill him myself!
So does anyone remember COD points? No one ever talks about COD points anymore, and that makes me sad. It's not enough to level up and unlock your camo, you gotta pay for it. Like, who made this up? If that feels a bit slow for you, you can always risk it all and play a wager match or two. The core multiplayer experience was somewhat tamer than Modern Warfare 2's, but they made up for it with all these gimmicks, some of which made it to later titles, and the rest never saw the light of day again. Here's a few of them. Camera spikes, decoys, these annoying bastards, combat training, theater mode, emblem making. You get the idea. None of these innovations made huge ripples on their own, but the fact that all this extraneous bullshit came from one game really shows how much creative freedom Treyarch afforded themselves.
My name is Viktor Reznov!
Here's the meat and potatoes, the reason I started work on this video. The Modern Warfare plotline is timeless and it's well executed, I would never take that away from it, but Black Ops? This is where the good shrooms are. I should mention that I don't have a capture card and Activision thinks it's okay to charge €40 for an 11-year-old game, so links to the footage I used will be in the description. Also, there are many sudden bright flashes throughout the game, and I don't know how epilepsy works, so to be safe, consider this to be your epilepsy warning. You have been warned, okay? Alright, let's go. Kicking things off is... wait, where are we?
Wake up!
Where am I? Where's Reznov?
So this is different. First up, the player character actually talks, so you know, that's cool.
What's your name?
Fuck you!
Where were you born?
Kiss my ass!
Black Ops immediately throws a bunch of questions at you. Who's this Dragovich guy? Reznov from World at War's in this game? What do the numbers mean? And most importantly, who's that prick up there and why are they asking questions they seemingly know the answer to? This sense of mystery is great. You've actually got something to chew on. It's not just about slicing melons and going off to war. It immediately sets expectations of a more involved story than the usual action plot. Here's what we do know. The player character is Alex Mason, a soldier boy from Alaska. In 1961, he and his boys Woods and Bowman took a lad's trip to Cuba. They had a goal in mind they wanted to cross off the old bucket list.
Castro. We went in to kill Castro.
And with that, we kick off the first proper mission in the game, Operation 40. So here we are, together with Woods, Bowman, and Carlos. My guy Carlos, iconic Call of Duty character Carlos. This ain't your dollar store run-of-the-mill ops, this is Black Ops. So we're incognito, planning out the assassination of Fidel Castro, the Prime Minister of Cuba at that time, both in the game and for real. That's pretty juicy, I'm gonna come back to that in a second. The militia are here, and I guess we're not very good at blending in because they single us out immediately.
Just be cool, Woods. Wait.
Talking to you!
Just Be cool, Woods.
Okay, now we're playing a Call of Duty game. The core shooting gameplay is nothing special, but Black Ops has a lot of neat action sequences. I like this section at the start. We're fighting our way through the streets in plain clothes, it's very messy, militia cars keep pouring in, and we duck through an alleyway to reach our getaway vehicle.
He's fading away. Mason, you escaped from the police.
The game cuts between past and present like this all the time, never letting you forget that these are all flashbacks of events that brought about Mason's current situation. I like this because it signals that the campaign is leading towards something. We want to find out how the past and present converge. The interrogator, like us, is pursuing answers. We're back in Mason's head. He skipped ahead to the action. Whee! I love that zipline. We murk some hapless militiamen, and just like that, the Bay of Pigs invasion has begun. We're taking the fight to Castro. It's time to discuss Treyarch's sheer audacity. Firstly, having people play through an attempt on a real political figure's life is already bound to raise some eyebrows, and Cuba certainly wasn't happy about this mission. But get this, Black Ops came out in 2010. Castro stepped down from office in 2011. Let me reiterate, Treyarch released a game where you have to kill a government leader who is not only still alive, but still in power. Granted, the Bay of Pigs invasion was a real historical event from over 60 years ago, it's not like Treyarch invented it, but imagine you're Fidel Castro in 2010 and you just found out there's a video game out there that millions of people are playing, globally, and the first level is about plotting to kill you and you're still in basically the same job that you were back then. Now I doubt Castro bought this game, rubbed his hands and popped the disc into his Sony PlayStation 3, but if he did, he'd be treated to this scene. Yeah, if I was Castro, I'd probably stop here. At the very least, I'd hop on a game of 5 instead where I can literally play as myself. Elsewhere, the battle is going south, so it's in our best interest to get the fuck out. This airfield scene is baller, by the way. The streets were one thing, but this is a war zone. There's so much happening, it's chaotic, and we need to get out now. And it's in this plane sequence that Black Ops does something other CODs don't do much, developing the player character while they're the player character. Can you tell me one character trait that, say, Roach or Ramirez had in Modern Warfare 2, apart from being badass soldiers? I didn't think so. The player character in Call of Duty thus far has been an avatar of the player. They do what they're told and leave the burden of having a personality to the other cast members. Even popular player characters like Soap and Petrenko only became proper characters when they became NPCs in the next game of their respective series. But look at what Mason does here. Things are getting dire and the runway is clogged up with Castro's forces, so in an act of desperation, Mason spots a turret and jumps off the plane. He sacrifices himself to ensure his squad's escape, even against their wishes. I don't mean to suck Treyarch's cock for making such a bold move as developing your main character, but Mason really did break a long COD streak of silent protagonists. I actually feel like I'm playing as a human being here. Mason gets left behind and he's at the mercy of the communists. We open our eyes to see Fidel Castro. It turns out we killed a body double and the real man is alive and well. The Bay of Pigs invasion was a colossal failure, just like in real life. We also come face to face with General Dragovich, the main antagonist of the game. Castro basically hands Mason over to him, which you will soon see is terrible news for Mason. I like how the game gives these two some personal beef, so Dragovich is more than just another target to take out. Operation 40 did its job as a first level perfectly. It was a fun mission that set the tone and steeped us in historical context. We have mysteries to solve, we have a well-defined protagonist and a menacing bad guy. Even with all that, this level didn't stick out to me until I watched it again for this video, though I think that's because the level right after it is truly unforgettable. Let's talk about Vorkuta, baby. Mason gets carted off to the brutal Russian labor camp in Vorkuta. The place hasn't been kind to him, but there's a glimmer of hope. Viktor Reznov's back. If I had a nickel for every time a fan-favorite character from a previous COD game turned out to be in a gulag, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't much, but it's weird that it happened twice. Mason and Reznov are working together, and they've crafted an elaborate plan to escape this hellhole. From the moment Reznov starts talking, he steals the show, and his charisma is re-established very quickly. When he speaks, the prisoners of Vorkuta answer.
This is step 1!
But I'm getting ahead of myself. Not everyone has played World at War, so here's the recap. Reznov fought through hell with us from Stalingrad to Berlin. He was ruthless, but a truly loyal friend to those who shared his ideals and resolve. His infectious, fiery passion made him a natural leader. These things made him a popular character in World at War, and now he's literally leading a war chant. What a spectacular return to form. I seriously can't think of a better way to reintroduce him in Black Ops. Reznov isn't just our ally, in fact. He's our friend.
Reznov, you sure can trust us American.
With my life.
But this begs the question, why is he here with Mason in the first place? He should have been a national hero, but here he is in the slammer, an enemy of the state. It's another question on the heap we've already got, but we can think about it later. We ascend from darkness, Sergei wastes 2 durability on his iron pickaxe, and it's time for the first action sequence in Vorkuta. With a proper weapon finally in our hands, we step into the light. Everyone loves a good underdog story, and this mission is exactly that. I absolutely love this part. Facing heavy fire, the only way forward is to use minecarts as cover. It's hard not to feel like a damn hero when this epic score is playing and Reznov is calling out which flank the guards are coming from. He's not always right, but that's on Mason for listening to Reznov when he clearly can't see shit. As the prisoners next to us rain fire with this slingshot we're told was built from scrap by our very own Mason. Nice going, Alex. We breach the tower and it makes for an excellent vantage point from which Mason rains some fire of his own. Vorkuta is in upheaval. Reznov broadcasts to our comrades across the entire gulag, telling a story of betrayal and vengeance as we unleash the horde. Sergei breaches the arms locker and we engage in some old-fashioned cover-to-cover shooting. You know, Vorkuta isn't just an outstanding level in the story aspect, it is a joy to play. We've been doing so many different things throughout the level, the first time we're actually doing the standard Call of Duty stuff is the halfway point, and you'll soon see that's not all it's got. I'm gonna go ahead and call this my favorite level in the game. It is expertly constructed in terms of pacing and tone. A helicopter shows up, which is apparently all according to Keikaku. Mason's engineering genius comes through again as we get to wield the harpoon and enact Step 5. You know, if there's one thing I regret, it's that Mason's talent with makeshift weaponry only comes to play in this level. I think it would have been a cute thing to sprinkle somewhere else, and if this trait was properly established in Mason, it would have felt a bit more natural here. Oh well. The guards nearly shut Mason out, but Sergei makes one last bro move and we just about slide through. Oh, Sergei, we hardly knew ya.
Allow me to introduce Sergei Kozin, the monster of Megadon. Break open the arms lockers!
Mason lets the boys inside, and this is where the momentum really swings. Vorkuta has been a veritable gun game, from knife to pistol to slingshot to shotgun to AK, and now we wield a fist of iron. The prisoners have been downtrodden, slaughtered, and outgunned for the entire level, which makes getting the death machine especially satisfying. There's nothing these guards can do. Mason's gonna raise hell whether they like it or not. Well, okay, maybe they can do something. Tear gas clouds our vision, and as badass Mason is, man still needs to breathe. This moment where Reznov runs back through the gas to pick up Mason is quite touching. God, he's so fucking cool. Mason comes to his senses just in time. As if this couldn't get any better, Reznov reveals the last set piece of the level. We're riding off into the sunset on motherfucking motorbikes, baby. Hell yeah. The vehicle sections in this game are actually pretty solid for the most part, and this is no exception. Zooming along on the bike and fighting off the pursuing guards is dynamic and fun, and midway through we hop onto an MG for a surprise turret section while Reznov drives us to salvation. Finally, we find the train, our key to Step 8, freedom. Mason jumps across and beckons Reznov to follow, but life isn't so kind. As suddenly as we found Reznov, we're about to lose him. The guards have caught up and there's no way for Reznov to make it to the train. We can only helplessly watch as the blockade closes around him and he bids us farewell. This grand and dynamic level ends in a rather somber way. We've won our freedom, but there is a real sense of loss. Mason made it back to the US, and after a bunch of psychological testing, he gets cleared for duty, even though he worked with a damn communist without violently convulsing. Mason is an undeniably tough cookie, but we will soon see that there's some psychologists out there who need firing. On we go to USDD. We get introduced to CIA agent Jason Hudson, Mason's new handler. He's a major player later, but at this level he mostly just walks around and looks cool. To be fair, that's not his fault. There is no gameplay in the whole level. For reasons not yet known to him, Mason's being summoned to the Pentagon. He and Hudson step out of a chopper and into a limousine, where we shake hands with none other than the Secretary of Defense, Robert McNamara. He gives us a formal introduction to the cause of much of Mason's suffering, the Soviet Union's Major General Nikita Dragovich, and Mason, genre savvy as he is, asks the question,
When do I kill him?
We're lucky to have you back, Mason.
Here we are in the Pentagon. There's American flags everywhere, security at every door. Mason can't help but squirm under all these eyes on him. This should be an awesome moment for Mason. He's a VIP in the Pentagon, something few will ever be, but he's too anxious to savor it. And there's those damn numbers again. Mason's unable to focus, oddly disconnected from the spectacle in front of him. Then the interrogator says this.
You were getting close to your objective. It was working.
Yeah, that's not foreboding at all. Mason's grip on reality slackens the deeper we go into the Pentagon. The numbers flicker in his head incessantly. And then we meet him. The Black Ops series doesn't shy away from depicting real people, but this game in particular is very generous in that respect. We've had Castro, we've had McNamara, and in the Wacky Zombies timeline we even get Richard Nixon in the Call of the Dead crew. And now, right in front of us, stands the 35th President of the United States, John F. Kennedy. By now, Mason's mental state is well and truly fucked. The hallucinations go into overdrive. A familiar face shows up on one of the TV screens, though in-universe he hasn't made his claim to fame quite yet. Mason's outward appearance is apparently just fine, but inside he slips further and further into madness, until... This is a not-so-subtle hint at the trajectory of plot events to come, but how we get there and what the journey will look like is yet to be seen. Conveniently for Mason, the president wanted us to kill Dragovich and a bunch of former Nazi scientists in the Baikonur Cosmodrome in order to sabotage the Soviet space program, but we're told that something went wrong that day. The interrogator tries to get more out of Mason, but those damn numbers are still in his head. Let's head over to Executive Order. I said Black Ops has a very strong start, and this is the last level I would lump into this quote-unquote first act. I love the atmosphere at the beginning of this mission. Weaver, our man on the inside, has gone radio silent, so together with Woods, we're creeping through this barren scrapyard under an orange sky abuzz with Russian helicopters. Say what you want about the 11-year-old graphics, but this visual of the distant rocket teeming with Soviet activity is top-notch. There's way more Russians on patrol than there should be, and bad news, Weaver's been compromised. The guy standing over him's name is Kravchenko. If he looks familiar, that's because he was in Cuba, third-wheeling for Castro and Dragovich. He's a pretty standard right-hand man, a bit less cunning and a bit more brutish, which he promptly demonstrates. Weaver needs our help and the rockets are gonna launch soon, so we need to keep moving. Black Ops doesn't have a designated stealth mission per se, but it does have a few sections dotted around the campaign, this being the first big one. I think this fits the whole Black Ops theme. Stealth is these guys' specialty, so they won't use it for an isolated situation, they'll incorporate it where they see fit. There's this cute moment when the interrogator asks if saving Weaver was more important than the mission, and he doesn't really answer the question, but he gives us a little smile. Mason, you can say you like your friends, it's okay. Overall, the stealth part of this level plays fine. We link up with our squad and march through the compound in disguise, trying to look natural and get by with our basic Russian until we get into the comms building, at which point it's weapons free. We fight up to the rooftop, and apparently Weaver's alive in that bunker over yonder. When we go loud, we go all the way. Say hello to the iconic crossbow with explosive bolts, beautiful as ever. Mwah. This zipline section is fucking awesome. To be honest, ziplines just make any action sequence cooler instantly. Not only is Weaver alive, he's ready to start kicking ass right away. Honestly, I kinda feel bad for Weaver in this game. He's underappreciated, but we'll get to that later. The element of surprise is gone, but we can still stop the rocket launch and find Dragovich. For some reason, sliding down and running along this path is one of my most vivid memories from this game. They really make the sense of scale work. This is overall a great and memorable environment for a campaign mission, and sometimes that's all you need to set a good level apart from a mediocre one. We find the console, but the rocket is already flying away. We can't stop it remotely, but we don't have to. We can fight rocket with rocket. Alright, that's been dealt with. Now we have a Dragovich to catch, so into the tunnels we go. This level ends in a very peculiar way. After a bunch of standard issue shooting gameplay, Weaver just randomly fucking spews all over the floor and we launch into a cutscene. Kravchenko managed to escape, but Mason's gang searched the entire compound and found Dragovich, promptly blowing up his limo. Mason was unsatisfied and wanted to see the body for himself, but Woods talked him down. It definitely feels like this is something we should have played through, but maybe the devs thought the level was getting too long and cut it. That's my theory anyway. It would explain why all this stuff is rendered in-game and why it feels so abrupt, but not why Weaver pukes his guts out. The interrogator recounts how Mason refused to believe Dragovich was dead, and for the next 5 years Mason was fixated with finishing the job. Whoever the person in the booth is, they're remarkably well informed, and finally Mason questions what their deal is, to which they simply respond they want the numbers. Mason's next assignment was in Khe Sanh, Vietnam, together with Woods, Bowman, and Jason Hudson.
Mr. Shades. The guy was an ice cube.
Actually, Mason, small correction. The rapper known as Ice Cube actually portrays Bowman in this game. Let's get started with SOG. Treyarch really know how to make a visually striking beginning to a level. I mean, look at Woods up there, gliding down from the heavens one-handed, that's just badass. Too badass for poor Hudson, who gets left on scene.
Thank you for your time, Sergeant.
Woods fills us in on the SLG unit and the operations that go down here, yada yada yada, but then shit goes down. The NVA are attacking, and we just narrowly escaped a cool death. Mason drags a shell-shocked Hudson to safety to let him catch his breath, and then we pull our weapons out and emerge from the trenches into the hellish battle of Khe Sanh. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, the Vietnam stuff isn't really that interesting. It looks great, probably. I'm no Nam vet, but I think they did a good job bringing the new Vietnam environment to Call of Duty, but I don't have that much to say about it. It's filler. It's good filler. The action sequences are solid, and throughout it all, Mason is built up as a genuinely likable dude, and his chemistry with the rest of the squad, Woods, Bowman, and Hudson, is allowed to organically grow. That being said, it is still filler, so I hope you don't mind if I go a bit faster. We repel the NVA for now. Poor Hudson is still not one of the cool kids, and we get word of a Russian defector. The next cutscene is a bit odd. The interrogator knows that Mason got into contact with the defector in the MacV compound in Way City, but Mason denies it very vehemently, like it gets very heated all of a sudden.
No!
We know you did.
Mason went in even though the NVA were surrounding the city and the defector probably already died, and though Mason hates to admit it, he needed the defector's dossier because it had intel on Dragovich. There's our setup for the creatively named The Defector. Way City is even messier than Khe Sanh. Our helicopter goes down, we crash into a building, and Woods carries us for a little bit. I guess it was time to spice things up, so we're given the Dragon's Breath incendiaries in this level. The only other point in the game we see something like this is the Pack-a-Punch Olympia and zombies, so for all intents and purposes this is the only point of the game we see incendiary rounds because no rational human being actually buys the Olympia. Okay, so we fight past a bunch of NVA soldiers for a bit, combing through MacV for the defector. Reznov? Holy shit, Reznov's alive. He's the defector, and he confirms what Mason knew all along. Dragovich is still at large and he needs to be stopped. This is where we hear one of Reznov's most iconic lines.
Dragovich, Dreshenko, Steiner, all must die.
He's still not cool enough for Woods and Bowman apparently, so he gets the Hudson treatment. I guess this upsets him because he's much quieter than usual in this level, except when it's just you and him. The rest of this level is devoted to booking it out of Way City. It's nice fighting alongside Reznov just like old times, and there's not much else to say. There's a lot of fun sequences, but overall this level is probably the least interesting one in the game. We get to the landing zone and go through a lengthy defense mission, holding our position against NVA troops until we can get a lift out of there and into a much cooler level in my opinion. The dossier Reznov gave us was pretty useful. Dragovich survived Baikonur and was working with Kravchenko, Steiner, and a guy named Daniel Clark. Here we get introduced to the chemical compound known as Project Nova or Nova 6. Clark was a British scientist based in Hong Kong who helped work on Nova 6, and it was Hudson's job to get a hold of him. That's right. In the next level, Numbers, we get a perspective change, baby. We play as Hudson this time round. Playing as Mason, we got to know a lot about him, so I'm excited to see the world through Hudson's eyes. What makes him tick? What are his goals? Oh, he's doing torture. Clark worked alongside Steiner, the third and final member of the All Must Die trifecta, to stabilize Nova 6, a biochemical weapon. Unfortunately, that's all he tells us for now, because Dragovich is paranoid and doesn't like loose ends, so his goons have come a-knockin'. Hudson and Weaver truce with Clark out of mutual interest. We want Clark alive for information about Nova, and Clark wants Clark alive because he doesn't want to die. Anyway, it's Hudson, Weaver, and Clark against Dragovich's men. This is another level that's elevated by its setting, literally. Yeah, I know, I'm a comedic genius. The Kowloon environment is brilliant. One moment you're jumping across rooftops and the next you're fighting for your life in the cramped hallway. It reminds me of Modern Warfare 2's Favela, what with the corrugated roofs and the verticality. Clark was prepared for some treachery. He has a bunch of secret weapon caches, but they're all pointless because you can get the Thunder Gun in this level. If you know how to get it, it's basically illegal to play through the level without doing so. It turns out Clark rigged his lab with explosives in the event that Dragovich tried to steal his work. Good going, dude. Clark is a war criminal and an asshole, but he's pretty entertaining to be honest. I like the temporary alliance he's got going on with Hudson and Weaver. I hope nothing bad happens to him. Okay, we're almost at the bottom. Just need to make sure Clark doesn't fall. Ah, crap. So this mission was a failure, but before Clark got game ended, we got some tidbits out of him. Dragovich's plan relies on numbers of some kind, and Steiner is based in Mount Yamantau, Russia, making him the next target. You might think I dislike this level because of how quick I went through it, but that's not the case. I enjoy numbers a lot. It's very fun and atmospheric, just not in a way I can really discuss. It's one of those things that's best experienced yourself, but don't worry, if you're looking for something meatier, the intel Hudson got in numbers sets us up for a very plot-heavy level. Nova 6 is a terrifyingly effective bioweapon, and it's in the enemy's hands. But as it turns out, Dragovich's connection with Nova goes back further than we thought, and so does Viktor Reznov's. Mason recounts a story Reznov told him in Vorkuta, a story from the twilight of World War II, over 20 years ago, the story of how Reznov's vendetta against Dragovich, Kravchenko, and Steiner began. Here we go, boys. Project Nova. The mission is narrated by Reznov. Before we cut to the gameplay, he tells us about his father, who defiantly continued to play Soviet music in German-occupied Stalingrad before the Nazis had him killed, deepening Reznov's hatred against the Third Reich. On the 29th of October, 1945, nearly 6 months after Nazi Germany's surrender to the Allies, Reznov finds himself in the Arctic Circle under Dragovich and Kravchenko's command. The mission is to assault the German base and secure Dr. Friedrich Steiner. There's already beef between these two and Reznov. In the siege of Stalingrad, they promised Reznov reinforcements which never came. He views collaboration with any Nazi as a betrayal to his nation, so the very purpose of this mission is repugnant to him. But Dragovich is his commanding officer, so he grins his teeth and bears it. The man across from Reznov is Dmitry Petrenko, the player character in the European campaign of World at War, and Reznov makes sure Mason knows how heroic he was. Wait, was? Oh god. I enjoy how your experience of each Black Ops level depends on the sensibilities and viewpoint of the player character. Mason was often being interrupted by the interrogator probing for intel. Hudson didn't narrate the events of Numbers at all, so we were completely immersed in his mission. But then there's Reznov. He's actually telling a story, and he occasionally peppers in his thoughts, emotions, and retrospections. It's a small touch, but I think it goes a long way in making these characters distinct from one another. The mood in Reznov's squad is hopeful. The war is officially over, and this might be the last hurrah before they can come home. Speaking of coming home, Treyarch are in their element. World War II is a very familiar setting for Call of Duty, obviously, and it shows. The atmosphere is on point. You're trudging through the snow, finishing off the last dregs of the Third Reich while this epic track plays in the background. It really feels like the closing chapters of this brutal conflict. Almost jubilant, but it's also kinda chilling, because from the way Reznov is speaking, something's gonna go wrong. When we find Steiner, he's very cavalier about the whole thing, demanding to be taken to Dragovich as if he's the guy with the big gun.
Do not point that weapon at me, Russian dog!
You will take me to Dragovich.
Reznov finds no empathy in him, no emotion. If he weren't a loyal soldier, he would have put down Steiner right there, but back then, he still believed in orders. With Steiner secure, the Soviet contingent approaches this sunken vessel. As we head into its depths, Steiner freely exposits about what's inside, an experimental weapon Nazi Germany hoped would turn the tables against the Allies, Nova 6. If the British hadn't disabled this ship, V2 rockets armed with Nova 6 would have hit Allied capitals across the globe, including Moscow. Dragovich doesn't take this personally at all. In fact, he admires this audacious plan. Trapped in this crippled vessel is a chemical superweapon that could have changed the outcome of the Second World War. And now, Russia will claim it for itself, just beyond this door. Dragovich did it. He secured Nova 6 for his country, but this wasn't just a glorious day for the Soviet Union, it was a personal opportunity. It would have been unwise to leave without a demonstration of the weapon's power, and, well, who better to test it on but the troublesome elements under his command? Reznov always knew Dragovich and Kravchenko couldn't be trusted, and that they didn't trust him, but Reznov the soldier was too naive to act, and as it turns out, it would be his greatest regret. His sorrow was palpable, as he recounts how he had to watch Petrenko, who had been with him through so much combat, die a guinea pig. The gas eats through Petrenko's skin, destroying him inside and out, and Reznov could do nothing but watch through the glass. As fate would have it, Reznov would not die the same way. The British had been observing from afar, interested in taking Nova for the crown, and the commandos chose this moment to strike. An explosion rocks the ship, scaring off Dragovich's crew, and miraculously, the door to the gas chamber is blown off. Reznov's men are saved, but they're stuck in a free-for-all. Reznov's faith in the establishment is shattered, but even if his leaders have betrayed him, he can still do a service to the world. The goal isn't just to flee for our lives, the V2 rockets are still on the ship, and if we can blow them up, we can bury Nova 6. The squad scavenges British and Russian weapons and pushes through the chaos, standing alone. Reznov primes the explosives, and now it's time to flee for our lives. This part of Project Nova is one of Reznov's best moments, as it's very telling of his true character. Turning his back on everyone would have been easy, and given how his valor went unrewarded, who could blame him? But Reznov knows that allowing Nova 6 to fall into the hands of either side would be a terrible thing for humanity as a whole.
This is not our war! Then who do we fight? Everyone! We stand alone!
He escapes the ship just in time. From the ice, he watches it sink into the Arctic waters, and we finally get our answer as to why Reznov was sent to Vorkuta. Such a selfless act had no place in Stalin and Dragovich's Russia. Sure, this wasn't the end of Nova 6, it would eventually be recreated, but he let the world breathe for a little longer. Reznov knows what blind devotion to your leaders can do, and he doesn't want Mason to suffer like him. I really can't say it any better than he does.
The flag may be different, but the methods are the same.
If Nova 6 was made once, it could be made again, and no matter who ended up wielding it, the results would be catastrophic. This struggle transcends nationality, ideology, or borders. Dragovich, Kravchenko, and Steiner simply must die. As long as they live, the world is in danger. Phew. Yeah, how's that for plot? Sorry if it got a little heavy, I kinda forgot how hard this level goes. What a roller coaster, huh? Going by level count, Project Nova puts us just over the halfway line. If you missed Mason, don't worry, we're back with him now. After rescuing Reznov from Way City, his next task was to search northern Vietnam for evidence of Soviet involvement, as Kravchenko was allegedly running things there. If you're thinking, ah crap, more Vietnam stuff, why can't we just talk to Reznov more? Well, don't despair. In Victor Charlie, we actually get both. The level begins with our helicopter being shot down. We fight off some Viet Cong just fine, but things get real bad when the helicopter remembers it's in a lake. We're thrown underwater and Mason needs to get this door open ASAP, but lo and behold, Reznov is here to help. See? He's still here. I didn't lie to you guys. We clear out the surrounding VC and Reznov splits off to look for Kravchenko's compound, leaving Mason with his boys, Woods, Bowman, and Swift. Love that guy. What follows is a decently engaging stealth segment involving planting a bunch of sneaky C4s in the base. That's a surprise tool that'll help us immediately, actually. We blow it up, storm the village, find the Vietnamese AA gun, and blow that up too. But the real interesting part of the level comes when we have to enter the rat tunnels. Woods hands us a flashlight and we head inside with our boy, our man, Swift. This tunnel is treacherous, nothing to go off of but a harsh light, and enemies could be lurking around every twist and turn. A shape moves in the distance, but it turns out to be Reznov working with us in parallel. Swift doesn't like having his thunder stolen, I guess, because he gives out to Mason. Ah, crap. Swift! No! Swift's dead. He was so young. The tunnels are full of VC and our radio's on the fritz. Once again, Reznov is by our side. He senses we're close and pushes Mason to keep going. The dynamic duo stalks through the tunnel, clearing out enemies along the way, and it turns out Reznov's instincts are on point. Kravchenko's compound is here, but the man himself has run off. He left behind plenty of the evidence we needed though, and if you stick around for a while you hear some real fucked up shit about tests carried out on the local population, adults and children alike. Nova 6 is back with a vengeance, perfected and ready for use in any climate. When we go to leave, tremors shake the building. Kravchenko wired the place to blow, and if we're not quick, we'll be buried alive. Mason desperately burrows his way out and nearly tumbles right over the cliff. And would you look at that, it's more VC. Woods to the rescue. His helicopter pulls up and we make a jump for it. Mission over. The interrogator is trying to drive a wedge between Mason and Reznov, but we're not having it. Reznov's our friend. He helped us through Vorkuta, he gave us the dossier. The interrogator's not having this at all, and they're more and more desperate to get through to the delusional Mason. The numbers in his head are a broadcast, a result of brainwashing, they say, but Mason's too far gone to register it. They press him further. Mason's next mission was in Laos, where the CIA shot down a Soviet plane with Nova 6 inside, and his squad went in to retrieve intel. Let's go to crash site. This level has the most Vietnam sequence in the whole game, as in the war, not the country, obviously. The crew consists of Mason, Reznov, Woods, Bowman, and this random marine guy, ready to tear shit up on the boat. Someone sticks on the radio and Sympathy for the Devil by the Rolling Stones is playing, which is technically an anachronism, as the song came out in December 1968 and Crash Site takes place in February, but let's be real here, who cares? This is the most memorable sequence in the quote-unquote Vietnam portion of the campaign, and for good reason. The vibe is simply immaculate, there's a bangin' tune on, the wind's at our backs cruising down the river, and all the VC structures crumple like paper under our gunfire. The whole squad is having fun in an almost wholesome way. Everyone's whooping and hollering, even Reznov.
He's just like back in Vorkuta, Mason!
But when we're done fighting the VC, something strange happens, and I don't think it's an intended kind of strange. The mood shifts instantly when the random marine manning the gun dies. The music shuts off and people scramble to check his body. Then Mason says this.
That young kid didn't make it. I swear to God that Woods was crying. But he never let us see no tears.
Like, what? I guess this comment is meant to give Woods some kind of deeply hidden soft side, but Woods is so macho in every other scene featuring him, both before and after, that this completely blindsided me. You know who else died, Woods? Swift. He didn't make it to the chopper, yet I see no tears from you about that one. But this random Joe Schmo Marine broke the camel's back, I guess. Is it meant to be a moment for the player to step back and think about the horrors of war? I have no idea. It might have just been an excuse to give Mason a cutscene so we can skip forward in the level. We get a visual on the plane. Fun time's over. It's boots on the ground for the rest of the level. Things take a turn for the worse when the Spetsnaz show up and shoot our Hinds out of the sky, but there's no choice but to press forward through the Russians and the Vietnamese. The Russian Hinds peel off as we finish the rest of the VC. The gang clambers up the wing of the plane, and inside there are no survivors, all of them wiped out by Nova 6 leaking after the crash. I would have felt a lot safer if you put on gas masks or something in light of this knowledge. knowledge. But hey, I guess the environment soaked it all up by now. We find a map of Kravchenko's Laos compound and some American weapons. Watch out, more enemies have shown up on the shore, and as badass as our squad is, we're outgunned here. You know, Mason's luck with aircraft has been piss poor this whole game. The plane in Op 40, the helicopters in both the Defector and Victor Charlie. But this is a whole other level, since he somehow found a way to crash a grounded plane. The already wrecked plane breaks down further under rocket fire, and Team Mason goes tumbling with it. Dazed, Mason is at the mercy of the Russians as they cart off his buddies. Surprise, surprise, Dragovich and Kravchenko have been right here the whole time. Did you guys notice Kravchenko had an apple in this scene when you played it? I sure as hell didn't. What the hell is up with that? So Mason has fallen into Dragovich's clutches, again. But let's not forget about Hudson, who had been searching for Nova 6 at the same time. Remember what Clark said about Yamantau? Well, Hudson acted off that intel, and apparently got into contact with Steiner there, and learned what the numbers are. It dawns on Mason that the numbers aren't just in his head, they're real, and the interrogator needs to know where the broadcast station is. Before that though, we hop back into Hudson's point of view for WND. Sorry, did I say Hudson? I meant this guy. We interrupt your regularly scheduled programming for an SR-71 launch. For the beginning of the level will be Hudson's eyes in the sky, making whoever this dude is the fourth and final player character of Black Ops. This Blackbird section is Treyarch's answer to the AC-130 levels, but it's nowhere near as fun. Instead of raining hellfire on hapless enemies, we're playing the worst RTS game of all time. God, these graphics are just awful. They let us play as Hudson for like 30 seconds before pulling us back out again. Twice. In all seriousness, it's not that bad, just kinda jarring. It is but one of many gameplay switch-ups throughout this very fun level. There's stealth, there's repelling through a window. I think it's cute that the alarm in this part is the same as the tactical nuke alarm from Modern Warfare 2. Just as a side note, this sequence where we run through an avalanche and pop our parachutes is top-notch in particular. All of these things make Hudson's raid on Yamantau a highlight of the Black Ops campaign, gameplay-wise. Our squad makes it to the main compound, where soldiers are burning research files in a desperate attempt to get rid of Nova 6 evidence. But Hudson has his eyes on the big prize, so we push deeper into the lab. The facility is rigged to blow, so we need to be quick. We barge into the control room, where a map of the USA features prominently. You know, all these ominous-looking targets make me somewhat anxious. I don't think these guys like America. The doors lock by themselves. We are trapped. We hear the voice of none other than Friedrich Steiner. He's not contacting us to gloat. He doesn't even want to kill us. He's offering us a deal. There are sleeper cells everywhere in the US waiting for a signal in the numbers. In 36 hours, they will release Nova 6 across the nation. With his plan so close to completion, Dragovich wants to get rid of anything that could connect him to Project Nova, including Steiner. Steiner's proposal is simple. He is the only one who can tell us how to stop the broadcast. If we come to Rebirth Island and save him, this calamity can be avoided. We don't get much time to think. The explosion countdown starts, the doors unlock, and we steal a truck just in time. The facility goes boom. Yamantau is buried, but Hudson got what he needs. We have a way to stop Nova 6. The cat's out of the bag now. We have, at most, a day and a half before World War III. The interrogator is at the end of his rope. If the broadcast station isn't found, the whole world is fucked. But wait, what about Steiner? Didn't he say he could stop the Nova 6 attacks? Did we fail to recover him? Or did he perhaps double-cross us? Interesting questions, but we're gonna have to ponder them for a bit longer. The pressure makes Mason collapse into himself and relive the torment he went through in Laos. Here we go. Payback. Life's been pretty unkind to Mason, huh? Well, it's not about to get kinder. The VC sit the gang down and make them play a sadistic, dangerous game. No, not Uno. Russian roulette. Bowman is mentally broken, and he provokes the Spetsnaz guy chilling with the VC to kill him outright.
Bowman! Bowman! You fucking son of a bitch!
Leaving just us and Woods, who we can still rely on. Just listen to him.
You can't kill me!
We have no choice but to play, and Woods puts the gun to his head. He's spared for now, but the two of them covertly agree. Unless they escape, they're gonna die in here. Mason is handed the gun and takes a 1 out of 6 chance. Oh, it's payback time. We're on a warpath out of the VC compound, shooting our way to freedom just fast enough to hunt down the Spetsnaz guy, not letting him forewarn Kravchenko of our arrival. Oh yeah, we're not just escaping Laos. Kravchenko's compound is close, and there's no way we're getting out of here without some well-earned justice. Now don't panic, but there's a helicopter ripe for the taking, and if he wants to get shit done, Mason has no choice but to break his curse. The behind section is a fun, cathartic romp through the Laotian jungle, exacting holy retribution upon our captors, and it's a delightful backdrop for me to go on a quick tangent about Black Ops' use of diegetic storytelling, like how a large portion of the campaign is flashbacks narrated by the characters themselves. If you learned a new word today, you're welcome. You don't have to repay me, but if you really want to, you can subscribe. Because so much of the plot is past events being recounted, it's pretty easy to create suspense by having a character allude to a critical piece of the story that they know and we don't. It's not just a vehicle to the plot either. I've already touched on how Treyarch distinguishes each of its viewpoint characters in a natural way. Some might argue that they use in-universe narration as a crutch in lieu of something more subtle, but seeing how well it's incorporated, I would disagree. So anyway, we touch down at Kravchenko's compound, guns blazing, and on the way we help out some POWs, including, what do you know, Reznov. Our boy's never too far away from us, is he? It's like a switch flips in Mason's head. Instead of helping Woods finish freeing all the POWs, he follows Reznov in a rush straight to Kravchenko. With some extra manpower on our side, we push all the way to Kravchenko's office. Outnumbered, this guy still ain't going down without a fight, and actually manages to 1v2 Mason and Woods, but he commits the cardinal sin of not confirming his kills. Wounded, surrounded, and hopeless, Kravchenko commits one final act of spite.
What?
The explosion rips through the building. Mason comes to, and as much as he'd like to see Woods right now, he blinks, and Reznov stands over him. I see you, Treyarch, giving Woods his best moments just before getting rid of him, you bastards. Well, despite heavy losses, this was a victory. Kravchenko is out of the picture. 1 down, 2 to go. And Kravchenko's files give us another clear target. Dr. Friedrich Steiner, Rebirth Island. Apparently, Mason was the only survivor on his team, but we know different. Reznov was still with us, and our work wasn't finished. Mason and Reznov went to Rebirth Island against orders, even though the CIA were already on their way. Also, here's a little bombshell.
We wanted Steiner alive! Why did you have to kill him?
There's that diegetic storytelling again. This one's definitely a bold move, but given that the interrogator is pursuing Mason's help this desperately, we could have seen this coming on some level. Now we just need to see how it happens, and let me tell you, it's a doozy. Bring on Rebirth. Viktor Reznov has been by our side for so much of this campaign, but on this level, the bond is more personal than ever. It makes sense. On our warpath towards Steiner, he is our only friend. Horribly outnumbered, stealth is the only option for our dynamic duo. This is the last stealth section in the entire game, and I gotta say it's my favorite. Something about sneaking around this shady facility with Reznov, evading helicopters and Soviet soldiers at every turn is perfect. Black Ops draws from history a lot, and Rebirth Island is another fine example. This was a real island on which the Soviets built a real facility, Aralsk 7, specifically for the research and production of biological weapons. From 1948 to 1991, the Russians carried out experiments on many bioweapons, though thankfully, they never made anything quite on the level of Nova 6. At least I really hope so. In the present day, there is no facility, and there is also no island. The Aral Sea that once surrounded Rebirth had been shrinking ever since the 60s, when the Soviets diverted its feeder rivers for agricultural purposes. Today, the Aral Sea is a small fraction of itself. The derelict Aralsk 7 sits in the middle of the youngest desert in the world. Of course, during Black Ops, it is still an island, but that little tidbit is too interesting to leave out. A faraway explosion signals the CIA's arrival. If they beat us to Steiner, he'll live to create more misery another day. That's unacceptable. The race is on. The Soviet forces are quite scattered, trying to manage the CIA's assault, the purge of Project Nova, and our attack from within. Scientists and soldiers run around, too preoccupied to put up much resistance. The labs are a wretched place, a staging ground of wicked science in pursuit of cruel goals. Many bodies reside here before we even spill any blood. Cadavers on tables, pigs on racks, monkeys in cages. Some are still alive, but getting caught in the crossfire is arguably a merciful end for them. Hudson tries to talk us down via radio, but there's no brakes on this train. Mason and Reznov have suffered too much, gone too far to back down. You know, Steiner doesn't know it, but he's been doomed for a while. Either the CIA don't come and Dragovich is free to execute Steiner, or they do come, clearing a path for our revenge. The borrowed time Steiner had cultivated through betrayals, schemes, and cowardice has run out.
Friedrich Steiner. This is the end.
The architect of Nova 6 is finally at our mercy. He apparently recognizes Mason from Vorkuta, but he definitely recognizes Reznov. We got here first, beating the CIA by mere seconds. Right now, they are powerless. Today, the power belongs to us.
My name is Viktor Reznov, and I will have my revenge!
I swear to God, that's how
Steiner died. The interrogator denies this, alleging that Mason pulled the trigger, but we saw what we saw. Perhaps this demands another perspective, a fresh pair of eyes. Rebirth isn't over, not by a long shot. We're only halfway in this bitch. Let's see Rebirth from Hudson's point of view. Hudson's assault on Rebirth is vastly different to the first half of the level. For Christ's sake, we're on a mounted grenade/machine gun combination turret. We're coming for Steiner, leveraging the full might of the CIA against fierce Soviet resistance. After some vehicle combat, Hudson is knocked off his turret, and the Soviets drop some all-too-familiar Nova 6. The battlefield is covered in a deadly, yellowish haze. Fighting in Nova 6 is a brutal affair. You better hope your hazmat suit stays intact so you don't end up like this poor Marine. Visibility is terrible and the fight is no less hectic than it was before. Naturally, the CIA came prepared. With liberal use of the good old thermal scope, we pushed the Soviets all the way to the labs. Breathing fresh air once again, we stormed the lab from the front. Destination? The biolabs, where Steiner is waiting. As we've already seen, Hudson's attempt to call Mason off is futile, and knowing Steiner is in grave danger, Hudson and Weaver pick up their pace, running through labs already littered with Mason's victims. Steiner contacts us, only a room away. Dragovich's men have started their purge. There's no time to waste. On the other side of the glass are two men, Mason and Steiner. The glass is bulletproof, so we scramble for something heavy to smash it, helpless as Mason says these iconic words.
My name is Viktor Reznov, and I will have my revenge! Mason, no!
Hudson was just too late. Mason, and Mason alone, executed Steiner in the name of Viktor Reznov. Pieces fit together in Hudson's head. With Steiner gone, the only hope to avert war lies in front of him, out cold on the ground.
What about Reznov, the defector? We need to find him.
We won't. He was never here.
It's about time to raise the curtain. In Revelations, we've officially caught up with the present. There are no more flashback missions. There is nothing else to be done. We are running out of time and options. The interrogator has one last idea. Into the room steps Jason Hudson. When I was a kid, this absolutely blew my mind, but really, who else could it have been? They even hinted at it a little through the dialogue.
Give us what we want, we'll guarantee your safety.
You can give us what we want, and we guarantee your safety.
I was gonna put in a joke where referring to the interrogator as the interrogator every time was too inconvenient, so I would just call him Dudson. It probably would have shaved 20 minutes off this video. In this do-or-die situation, Hudson's Ice Cube persona cracks. Even with all the bullshit Mason has been subjected to, Hudson knows Mason's character. He wouldn't betray his team and country. And he is right, but given how Hudson is the one who interrogated us with an electric chair for hours on end, what happens next is pretty justified. With the meager strength we have left, we hobble out of the interrogation room. We stumble through the empty, evacuated hallways, abandoned for the bunkers in wait of war. Mason's mental state has deteriorated completely. His senses are overwhelmed with the numbers. It's genuinely saddening when he calls out to Reznov, who obviously isn't there. Or perhaps he never was. Many voices bounce around in Mason's head. Hudson's, his own, and then Kravchenko's and Dragovich's. In that moment, something clicks. Mason's mental walls come crashing down. In the confines of Vorkuta, Dragovich, Kravchenko, and Steiner stood over Mason. Mason wasn't just a prisoner, he was a test subject. Steiner programmed Mason to receive the number sequences and carry out the orders embedded within, but his mind was challenging to work with. He showed a certain resilience that made him unreliable. Displeased, Dragovich discarded Mason, leaving him to expire with the other prisoners.
Oh, the pain! Oh my God!
Memories of Vorkuta replay in Mason's fractured mind. Memories of Reznov reaffirming his trust in the American Mason to his Russian comrades. A display of camaraderie that has been cast into doubt. As the ceiling falls away, revealing the Baikonur rocket launch, we relive JFK's orders to kill Dragovich, an assignment we pursued to the point of obsession. In light of this no good, very bad, terrible trip we're having, maybe it's a good thing that the pursuing Hudson finally catches up. He must be pretty angry about the punch, because he claps us so hard, we tumble into enlightenment.
The pain is difficult, isn't it? We are brothers, Mason. We are the same. Dragovich, Kravchenko, Steiner. All must die.
Finally, we see what Hudson's seeing. Reznov was never with us in Vietnam or Laos. He met his end in the Vorkuta uprising 5 years ago. Back when Steiner was in the middle of brainwashing Mason to kill JFK, Reznov snuck into the operating room and gave Mason 3 more objectives, killing Dragovich, Kravchenko, and Steiner. The Reznov we fought alongside throughout most of this campaign simply didn't exist. Mason has been an unreliable narrator this whole time. This explains a lot of the strange moments and inconsistencies.
Good, my friend. Follow me.
Are these your men?
Woods, Bowman.
I am Reznov.
Viktor.
What took you so long, Mason? That intel better be worth it.
The lives of many good men. No long.
Killing me will not stop Nova.
This twist is, for all intents and purposes, the climax of the story. We still have one more level after this that actually concludes the plot, but this, right here, this is what distinguishes Black Ops' campaign from any other COD before it, and in my opinion, it elevates the character of Viktor Reznov to a level of complexity that Call of Duty had never seen. The brainwashing twist answers a lot of questions, but it also leaves a lot of room for theorizing and interpretation, and that's especially true in discussing Reznov. He's been our leader and friend through 2 Treyarch games, and his conviction for what he believes in is beyond question. But did Reznov ever like Mason? Reznov clearly looked out for Mason and Vorkuta, and their friendship was a close one, but how much of that was genuine? What would their relationship look like if Mason was never brainwashed? The story of Black Ops could be seen as Reznov's corruption arc. When we met him, he was a hero, a soldier who sought to defend not just his country but the greater good of humanity, not letting go of his altruistic nature even in his darkest moments. And you might argue his actions in this game are consistent with this. Dragovich, Kravchenko, and Steiner were terrible, terrible men who needed to be stopped, but you can't deny that the Reznov in Vorkuta and the Reznov in the Russian army are very different people. Reznov's betrayal at the hands of Dragovich and the 18-ish years he spent in Vorkuta didn't break his spirit, but his motivations were certainly warped. It seems that saving countless lives became an afterthought to him, incidental to his true goal, revenge.
I do not care about Nova.
But then again, that might not be entirely fair. Reznov's single-minded focus on revenge is at its strongest when we're talking about the imagined version of him. When Reznov was alive, even when he told Mason the story of Dragovich's betrayal, it wasn't just about him. It was a cautionary tale about the evil any government is capable of, especially with a weapon as terrible as Nova 6. It's really up to you to decide how much the one-dimensional Reznov in Mason's head resembles the real man. Well, no matter how altruistic or not you might believe his goals are, he still brainwashed Mason, so he either built up a false, manipulative friendship entirely in service of his plan, or he opportunistically turned his friend into a weapon. I don't know. I don't think the Reznov of World at War would have done Petrenko like that. Look. Real talk. I like Soap, I like Price, I like Woods. They're all charismatic guys with genuine appeal and emotional moments, but none of them have a character arc as massive, far-reaching, or thought-provoking as Reznov's. Is there any other character in Call of Duty with this much development? I genuinely don't know. I haven't played the games before COD 4, and I don't really keep up with the new ones, so feel free to let me know if there are. But surely if there were, people would have been talking about them more. In my admittedly incomplete picture of the series, Viktor Reznov is the greatest character Call of Duty has ever produced. Okay, Reznov rant over. We are now on the same page as Hudson. The Nova 6 strikes are imminent, so he implores us one last time. Listen to the numbers broadcasts and find their source.
14, 3, 14, 7, 18.
Finally, instead of resisting the numbers, Mason opens himself to them. A familiar scene plays back, all the way from the first level, from before Mason was ever involved in this mess. The numbers start to make sense. Mason can decipher Dragovich's hidden messages. It turns out we had already laid eyes on the number station a long time ago. That ship, the Rusalka.
Where?
Cuba.
Well, this is it, boys, the home stretch. The final level in Call of Duty Black Ops is redemption. Facing imminent catastrophe, the US have one last shot at thwarting Dragovich. Destroy that broadcast station. Now that there's a clear target to shoot at, we can revert to the true American way. Throw firepower at it until it's gone. Our squadron of helicopters pushes through anti-aircraft fire, disabling the ship's guns and clearing the way for the boarding party, until enemy fire forces Mason into a hard landing. Some things never change. Okay, here we are, the Rusalka. The following shooting segment doesn't have that much to discuss that hasn't been already covered, so I'd like to take this moment to discuss our big bad, Dragovich. He's, kinda disappointing, to be honest. On paper, Dragovich should be a strong antagonist. He clearly has influence on the main characters and the plot at large, and he's done a lot of despicable, villainous things. So that's all cool, but like, what about the man himself? How would you describe Dragovich as a person? Well, there's not much to go off of. He's cruel, he's paranoid, he likes power, and I guess he's cool enough with the Soviet top brass to put all these dastardly plans into motion. Dragovich, to put it plainly, doesn't have that much of a personality. Whenever he's on screen, he's usually just sneering at you and looking kinda menacing. Fuck, at least Kravchenko took a dude's eye out. I'm not saying what this game needed was a deep, humanizing exploration of how Dragovich ended up like this. Treyarch conveys the villainy of Black Ops' bad guys in a simple way, through actions. So that's perfectly fine. That can work. And in fact, it worked in this very game, but only for one villain, Steiner. But what separates Steiner from the other two big bads? Well, Dragovich and Kravchenko only do things in service of one agenda, advancing their own plans, which is, you know, something everyone strives to do anyway. You could theoretically replace both of them with emotionless androids, and the plot would remain intact. But not Steiner. He has a clear, well-defined goal. Self-preservation. It's not the most intricate motivation ever, but it's much more human than an abstract lust for power. As a result, Steiner feels more nefarious than the other two, even though he's technically the tertiary antagonist of the game. He's a rat, a morally bankrupt coward who clings to life by being too useful to dispose of, and when he outlives that usefulness, he'll switch allegiances instantly if it buys him one more day. His karmic end at the hands of Mason/Reznov was genuinely satisfying, and who can resist a good mad scientist anyway? Steiner's not an incredible villain by any means, but with the screen time he got, he was very effective. It's a real shame that Steiner is the only good bad guy in this game. The overall mediocrity of the antagonists in Black Ops definitely weakens the story somewhat, I'm afraid. I think Treyarch came to realize this eventually, because in Black Ops 2, Raul Menendez gets a lot of development and a lot of spotlight, and he's a highlight of that game's campaign. Okay, so Mason and Hudson meet up with Weaver below deck. As it turns out, the broadcast station's not on the ship, but underneath it. Ding dong, the broadcast is starting. Hudson calls in a Navy airstrike to blow everything to smithereens, but Mason's not done here. Dragovich eluded him once, and he's not willing to risk it happening again. After a brief back and forth, Hudson agrees to accompany Mason down below. But listen to what he says.
Get out of here, Weaver. We're gonna finish this.
Boy does it suck to be Weaver in Call of Duty Black Ops. Let's recap. My man gets stabbed in the eye, then later that day he voms all over the place without any acknowledgement from his squad. He gets shot in the shoulder by Mason, and now Hudson's like, okay, run along now little guy. The big boys are gonna finish the job. He gets shit on so hard, and no one even remembers him. I remember you, Weaver. I remember you. The underwater portion isn't just a transmitter, it's a supply station for the Soviet submarine fleet, another component of the Russians' invasion force. Mason was right on the money. Dragovich could have easily taken a submarine to safety if we didn't have something to say about it. We make our way inside, and this is it, the final gameplay portion of the entire campaign. We move with a vengeance, gunning down the remaining Soviets on the way to the broadcast station, while the Navy rains bombs from above. The rig sustains more and more damage. Mason and Hudson mow down whoever's unfortunate enough to still be in the waterlogged hallways of this crumbling mess, finally arriving at the source of our misery. And there he is, Dragovich in the flesh. He gets the upper hand, but thanks to Hudson's distraction, we bring him down with us. Mason gets what he wanted, letting his rage loose on the man he's hated for so long. This has been coming for a long time, and I gotta give props to Dragovich. At least he's good at dying.
Tried to make me kill my own president! Right?
With his own two hands, Mason finishes the job, fulfilling Reznov's wish at long last. He and Hudson escape the ruined station just in time. Reznov passes on one final congratulatory message.
Mason, you did it, Mason. You did what I could not.
Thanks, dude. I guess. We won. Dragovich is dead, the broadcasts are no more, and World War III has been averted. But we're not done quite yet. There is one final cutscene, and it's worth sticking around for, that's for sure.
0, 11, 24, 19, 20, 0, 8, 11, 22, 17, 0, 10, 2, 23, 1, 8, 4,
6.5 millimeter.
9, 23, 16,
11, 22.
6, 12, 8, 2, 1.
Texas. Ascension.
That has been the Black Ops campaign, a story about deception, manipulation, brainwashing, and heavy implications that we killed the president. Is there a game more deserving of the Black Ops moniker? The writing process for this script has been a journey, let me tell you. I expected to poke fun at the weird and wacky parts of the game, and I certainly did that, but I also came out of it with genuine respect for the story that's been told. Don't get me wrong, it's not the most tightly plotted thing in the world. It has its flaws and it makes you suspend your disbelief quite a bit, and yet I can't help but love this campaign. The writers had fun with this thing, you can tell. They crafted this batshit insane plot, gave it the bombastic flair Call of Duty is known for, and shoved it into the faces of one of the largest audiences ever when they didn't even have to do this. Most people play the campaign for the first 5 hours, and then for the next 200, it's multiplayer and zombies. I was too young to really appreciate what I was getting. Well, I guess technically I was too young to play the game at all, but who's counting? Well, I'm not too young anymore. You might say all this analysis is for nothing. Maybe it's possible the writing team at Treyarch threw these plot elements and characters together with far less thought than I did into this script. I personally disagree. I've pointed out some deliberate decisions in the game's writing that indicate Treyarch had a good grasp of what they were doing. But either way, let me ask you this. Does it matter? People have been analyzing art for just as long as people have been making it. If you think any famous historical author actually accounted for and intended to convey all the meanings and nuances people have picked up on in their work, you're kidding yourself. So does the game live up to nostalgia? I think so. I enjoyed the hell out of it on first playthrough and during the writing of this script, but the kicks you get from analyzing a work are simply different to those you get from consuming it. That being said, if I still like the game after spending way too much time looking at it, I suppose that's a good sign. Above all, I appreciate the Treyarch really tried here, and in my opinion it paid off. This game left its mark on the series forever. Black Ops 2 is another game I rate highly, and Call of Duty is kind of a blur after that for me, but from what I've seen of the Cold War campaign at least, there's still some life in this old horse. At the end of the day, they made something that drove me, a gremlin with an attention span approaching 0, to make this monstrosity. This video has been a massive project, taking hundreds of hours spanning over 2 months. It's a big departure from the usual short-form content on my channel, and a very scary experiment. Aside from the footage and resources created by others, this was a solo project, and if you made it all the way to the end, thank you. If you enjoyed the video, I would greatly appreciate it if you shared your thoughts in the comments section, and of course, like the video, subscribe and all that. The feedback I get here is likely to influence the direction my channel takes in the future, and may lead to more long videos like this. I'm Kazmord, and this has been the Weird Genius of Black Ops 1. Goodbye.